There's a new street fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace, the word is chill.
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest action figure video podcast. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and let's talk toys. Let's talk about Storm Collectibles Kung Lao. Wait, where is he? Storm Collectibles Kung Lao. I've fallen deep into the Mortal Kombat Storm Collectibles line, and this is the newest edition. Been waiting a little while for him. What do I think about him? Want to hear it? Here it goes. Alright, let me just reset Kung Lao basically to his regular kind of stance so that we can see him properly. In fact, I'm going to take his hat off of his head, which is also just a nice fact that you can remove the hat, because that's not always a guarantee with action figures. Sometimes they're secured, but then again, this is Storm Mortal Kombat, so you would expect a fair amount of detail and extras, so I'm not going to get too whoop-de-doo about the fact you can remove a hat, but still a nice thought nonetheless. But here is Kung Lao, and I have grievances, but I also have some happiness as well. So first of all, just at a glance, it's Kung Lao. I mean, that's a kind of an essential thing, but that's what I'm saying is he looks like he should do. When he's standing on the shelf, you're like, oh, okay, that's iconically Kung Lao. Because I love these early designs. Mortal Kombat's 1 to 3, the designs were more kind of basic, and that was good because then they pop off the shelf more. As the games went on further and further, the designs became more and more complex and, over-designed sometimes. And I think then you lose kind of like the classic nuance of the character. Whereas when it's really basic, then it's like Ken and Ryu. Ken, just red karate gi. Ryu, white karate gi. Boom, you know exactly who they are, what they look like. And that's what I like about this one. Now, a problem I have with Storm here is just the way that they make things, I guess, is that this is meant to be like just a piece of material. It's clothes that he's wearing. But the plastic is so thick that it feels like he's wearing like body armor. This looks more like a bulletproof vest. You see, it looks like he's going to go and patrol Old Detroit with Murphy and Lewis. It doesn't look like it's just a tunic that he's wearing, and that's a big gripe that I have here, is that it just doesn't quite sort of work that well. They should have found a better way of doing it, is what I'm saying, because the plastic they've used, it's just too thick, and so that is a shame. He looks a little bit too bulky. So to have him like this, it makes his head look really small, because it makes his body look extra big, and I'm just not at home with that. I'm not a big fan of that. Now, when we go down, the rest of the body is fine, really, because it's just blue trousers. I mean, can't really go too far wrong with that. That's pretty standard, so that's fine. And then when we get to the articulation, no big problems, because Storm are pretty good with that. But also, one thing that I would have liked a bit more is something that you can debate. Because a thigh cut allows, much more movement with the swivel. But then again, you do then have a cut in the thigh. And considering I just broke my 2099 Spider-Man when I was trying to swivel his thigh, maybe it's for the best that we don't have it. But still, you would have a bit more range of motion, or just get some more creative poses if you could have that thigh swivel there. But still, he has the swivel in the hip, so that gives him, a fair amount. I'm just nitpicking with how much you can pose him, because I know that a lot of these figures, their appeal is for the hardcore photographers who love to do some crazy designs. And, the poses are, they're there, but you could do more. I'm rambling too much about that. Let's move on, shall we? So, one thing that I don't like, and I gotta just call it here now, I'm not a fan of the head sculpt. There are 2 head sculpts, both of them not great. Let me go grab the accessories. So here we have his type head, and I don't know, there's something about it. It doesn't feel quite right. There's an uncanny valley kind of thing, and I think that's the problem I'm finding with Storm Collectibles. Just their style of design, it works really great for animated type characters. So the Street Fighter line, fantastic, because they look just like the animated type design. Just the same with, I love one of my favorite action figures of all time is their Streets of Rage Axel Stone, because he has the angular proportions and the big cartoony eyes. He looks like that artwork. But with Mortal Kombat, they're always trying to go for a more realistic human type face, and that's where it starts to struggle. So whenever we have Mortal Kombat Storm characters where the face is exposed, that's where the cracks start to form. It just doesn't look quite right. I don't know, like tell me, is it too thin? Are the proportions not quite right? It just looks a bit wrong. And when you're going for a natural look, a little bit wrong is completely wrong. And I don't want to bash Storm because it's like, it's not fair. They do a good job, but still, it's so hard. Like, basically, my gripe is, it doesn't look like a real human being. And that's like, well, yeah, what do you expect, dude? They're not going to be able to shrink down a Hot Toys type face to that kind of size. But quite frankly, they should do, just to make me happy. Because the same goes for his plain neutral face as well. It's just, it's okay, but it's not cartoony, it's not human, it's something kind of in the middle, and I don't like that. Luckily, he comes with a hat that disguises a lot of these problems, but also introduces some as well. And that being that the hat is kind of wibbly wobbly. You know, it's not a perfect circle. It's like someone got a piece of clay and just with their fingers tried to, like, you know, mash it out into a circle, and they were like, it's pretty circular. No, the whole point of this hat is that it's meant to be like a perfect saw blade that can whoosh, like slice someone in twine, whereas this looks like it'd be like, I'm getting a bit of a dodgy cut here, because it's not that perfect sort of thing. And again with the face, if it's not perfect, then it's wrong, and that's really unfair. But you know what? I'm just a cruel taskmaster. That's who I am. That's why you come to this channel, because I'm just a mean son of a gun. But at least when the hat is on his head, then that does disguise the fact that the face doesn't look quite right for me. Because it's the same for me. I've got the Sub-Zero. My least favorite Storm Collectible Mortal Kombat character is this Sub-Zero, for the same reasons that his face is completely exposed. Therefore, it doesn't look cartoony enough to be a cartoon. It doesn't look real enough to be real. It's just not quite right. Plus, they're using this kind of orangey plastic with Sub-Zero, which doesn't look great. And is it the same? Yeah, I think they use the same plastic for Kung Lao as well. So his flesh tone, I feel like his flesh tone is a little bit off. His flesh tone is a little bit too orange. So that as well is a bit of a disappointment. Again, I don't hate it, but it's like, I don't love it. And Storm Collectibles, they're quite a high price point. So if you don't love it, then it's kind of a disappointment, you know? But it swings and roundabouts. Also, me being a hardcore collector, of course I'm going to want him, because I want to be a completist. Which is crazy, because I'm never going to own the original ninjas, so how am I ever going to be a completist? But there you go. Either way, that's assessing the main character. Let's have a look at some of his extra accessories. So he has a swooshing hat effect, and that's kind of fun. I've seen some very cool photography where people have the hat slicing through, and they've positioned other figures with their arms being lopped off and the blood spray that you get. Storm have been really great with their accessories. Obviously geared, I don't know what word I was trying to say there, obviously geared towards photographers and being able to pose cool pictures. So God bless them, they've done a great job with that. So this hat swooshing effect, that works really well. You can see the swoosh is kind of translucent, so you get a nice light kind of effect there. Hats off. They've done a great job with that. We also have a whole bunch of hands, but I mean, come on, it's a whole bunch of hands. I mean, it's great that we have them, but you don't want to see that. Plus, we also have this blood streak, and what happens is either hat, I'll use this one because it's out, but the hat will fit into the blood streak. So that, again, is really cool. You can have it slicing through someone and leaving this horrible, disgusting blood trail, which is really cool. You know, you can have that so it's like on the floor maybe, and it's about to slice them up the Jaffas. Happy days, as long as it's not your character, because nothing's more annoying than being beaten at Mortal Kombat and then being sliced up the Jaffas, am I right? And finally, we have the Friendship Bunny, which is kind of fun. That was always an amusing addition to the Mortal Kombat canon, was that you could do a friendship fatality, which is obviously not a fatality, but that was off the back of all of the negative feedback they had from parents groups and stuff saying Mortal Kombat was too violent. They're like, okay, fine, now you can do a ridiculous friendship move where, of course, in Kung Lao's case, he whips a rabbit out of the hat. So that's kind of fun. So ultimately with this figure, he's not great. He's got some big imperfections, but at the same time, I do like him. I am happy with him, mainly because if you put him in a cool kind of pose where he's reaching up to just like he's about to take his hat off, I mean, you can see like roughly sort of here, like I'm showing, very easy to put him in that kind of design. And because his head is down, the hat is covering the facial sculpt that I'm not that keen on. Plus, it's sort of disguising the thickness of his body armor tunic as well. So that sort of accounts for that too. So once you put him on the shelf, and then you just glance at him when you're walking past and checking out your badass Mortal Kombat collection, he fits right in and looks great. So speaking of the badass Mortal Kombat collection, here it is, and here is where Kung Lao is going, and boy, we're going to have to expand the Mortal Kombat shelves a little bit because they're all crammed on here, and as soon as Reptile and Kintaro arrive, then they're going to be shoulder to shoulder and bustling for shelf space, so we might have to expand this pretty soon, but in the meantime, I'm really loving how this looks, besides the fact that it desperately needs a dusting. But still, Kung Lao fits right at home with the rest of these Mortal Kombat characters. And folks, that does it for today's episode of Displaying Model Behavior. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you want to get yourself a nifty Displaying Model Behavior t-shirt, then you can do by going over to teespring.com, check the link in the description below. And finally, a huge big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, these saviors of model behavior right here, guys. You keep the channel going, you keep some shekels in my pockets that don't last long because then I spend them on action figures and then often moan about them, but then also say what I love too. It's only Spider-Man 2099 that really left me cold, but that was my own silly fault for buying a figure and thinking it would be something that it wasn't. It's like, really, Dave? You don't know what the Pizza Spider-Man mold is like? Get out of here. A fool and his money are easily parted. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Chill. Yeah.
Cup of coffee. Big time coffee.